What's up, Raider Nation? Let's break down a fresh three-round mock draft from ESPN. We'll look at what Mel Kiper Jr. and Field Yates are projecting for the Las Vegas Raiders, including their pick at number 6 overall. There's even talk of a possible trade. Plus, a lot of buzz is building around quarterback Shedeur Sanders, and what one NFL insider is reporting could change how you see the Raiders' strategy. Starting at the top of this mock draft, we've got Cameron Ward and Travis Hunter coming off the board at picks 1 and 2. Abdul Carter, Will Campbell, and Mason Graham round out the top 5. That group, especially the first 4, seems to be a common consensus in a lot of mocks lately. Mason Graham in particular keeps showing up in that number. Pet spot. Now, here's where things get interesting. At pick 6, the Las Vegas Raiders are projected to select Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty. He's been a consistent name linked to Vegas, and this mock is no different. Mel Kiper Jr. even backs it up by saying, "Let's get new head coach Pete Carroll his running back." And honestly, it makes sense. The Raiders averaged just 3.6 yards per carry last season, dead last in the league. Jeanty brings a blend of vision and shiftiness that could instantly upgrade their rushing attack. Kiper's pick lines up with what many are expecting. Jeanty's been mocked to the Raiders over and over, and he's widely considered one of the most likely options at 6. But here's where the debate heats up. What about Shedeur Sanders? ESPN's mock passes on him once again, and it's got people wondering, would the Raiders really skip on Sanders if he's still on the board? That's the big question, so let's put it out there. Do you think the Raiders would pass on Shedeur Sanders at pick 6? Drop a simple yes or no in the comments. If both Jeanty and Sanders were available, there'd be a real split among fans. A lot of people would be calling for Sanders, no doubt. But personally, I don't see it happening. Right now, I'd put the odds at less than 5% that the Raiders actually draft Sanders at 6. And a recent report from NFL insider Albert Breer backs that up. According to Breer, it's tough to find many coaches or scouts who view Sanders as a first-round talent. This isn't about personality concerns, although those questions do exist. NFL teams have overlooked that kind of stuff in the past if a player has rare talent. The issue here seems to be more about his physical tools. From what scouts are saying, Sanders doesn't show standout athleticism or arm strength on film, and there are concerns about how well his game will translate to the NFL. That said, it's not like he doesn't have anything going for him. Even his critics acknowledge he's accurate, smart, and mentally tough. He's helped programs win in tough environments, and that production doesn't come from nowhere. Still, based on everything we're hearing, it's unlikely Sanders goes in the top 3, and even less likely he ends up in silver and black. At this point, it would honestly be surprising to see the Raiders, Jets, or Saints take Shedeur Sanders in the top 10. Multiple sources have told me that if Sanders does end up going in the first round, it'll likely be because an owner steps in and pushes for it. And that makes sense. If Pete Carroll and general manager John Spytek have full control of that 6th pick, it's hard to imagine them choosing Sanders. But if someone like Tom Brady, now part of the Raiders ownership group, or Mark Davis sees the marketing potential and says, "There's money to be made here," that could sway things. That's where things might get interesting. Now, to be clear, I've said this before and I'll stick to it. Sanders' ceiling to me is comparable to someone like Geno Smith. He's got solid accuracy, similar to what you'd expect from a quarterback like Andy Dalton or Smith. And let's be real, the Raiders would love for fans to fully embrace a player like Geno. But if they draft Sanders, it would divide the fan base right down the middle. And that's the last thing this franchise wants right now. Back to the ESPN mock draft. Let's keep things moving. Armand Mbaye is off the board, followed by Jalen Walker, then Shedeur Sanders, going at pick number 9, which is interesting. Tyler Warren, Kelvin Banks, and Matthew Golden go next, 2 back-to-back Texas standouts. From picks 13 through 16, we see Will Johnson, Colston Loveland, Mike Green, and Jalen Barron come off the board. You'll notice the team logos on screen showing where each player lands. Walter Nolan, Grace Zabel, Nicario Omari, and Hampton are all drafted, with Hampton heading to the Raiders' division rivals, the Denver Broncos. Then the Steelers take defensive tackle Derek Harmon, followed by Emeka Egbuka, Shamar Stewart, and Donovan Jackson. The Texans get a steal at number 25 with wide receiver Teteroa McMillan. That's a wild pick. Maxwell Hairston goes late in the first round. The Ravens scoop up Malik Starks at 27, while the Lions take Malik Williams at 28. At 29, the Browns select quarterback Jackson Dart after a trade back. Buffalo grabs cornerback Trey Amos at number 30. Kansas City takes offensive tackle Josh Connerly Jr. at 31, and rounding out the first round is linebacker Jihad Campbell to the Eagles at 32. Now, coming up in the second and third rounds, there's an interesting twist for the Raiders, so don't go anywhere. Kicking off day 2 of the draft, defensive end Donovan Nzukah goes at pick 33, followed by quarterback Tyler Show to the Giants at 34. Then 2 receivers come off the board back-to-back, Jaden Higgins and Luther Burden. Honestly, that's a tough break for the Raiders. Both of those wideouts would have been solid additions. With the 37th pick, the Las Vegas Raiders select offensive lineman Josh Simmons out of Ohio State. Simmons missed 10 games last season due to a knee injury, but before that, he was regarded as one of the best offensive linemen in the country. Now, if you're thinking, wait, don't the Raiders already have Colton Miller? Fair question. Field Yates, who made this pick in the mock, pointed out that while Miller is currently the anchor at left tackle, he's set to become a free agent in 2026. So bringing in Simmons now could be a long-term move. There's a bit of uncertainty, though. Simmons didn't participate in the combine, didn't attend a pro day, and wasn't part of any top 30 team visits. That lack of contact might normally make a team hesitant. However, Simmons does have a connection to former Ohio State assistant Chip Kelly, and that relationship could play a role here. Now, maybe the Raiders didn't feel the need to bring Josh Simmons in for a visit, or maybe they were already comfortable with the evaluation. Either way, I still believe Colton Miller will receive a contract extension this offseason. He's got 1 year left on his current deal, and none of it is guaranteed. I wouldn't be surprised to see a 2-year extension, keeping him with new head coach Pete Carroll through the next 3 seasons, potentially locking down the left tackle spot for a while. As for Simmons, while the pick makes sense, it's unclear if he'd be ready to start immediately. If anything, he'd likely need to shift inside and play left guard to begin his career. Let's keep rolling through this ESPN mock draft. Kenneth Grant comes off the board at number 38, followed by running back Tre'Veyon Henderson at 39. Cornerback Azariah Thomas goes at 40. Picks 41 through 48 bring a quick flurry, and the Raiders are approaching their next selection at number 68. There were a few names still available who could have made sense for Las Vegas. Players like Carson Sweeney, safety Xavier Watts, or wide receiver Jalen Nowell. If those 3 wide receivers had already been taken, Nowell would have been a logical pick at 37. He's been linked to the Raiders before and is considered a solid fit for what they're trying to build. Another name to watch, defensive end JT Tuimoloau. A bit of a mouthful to pronounce, but definitely someone to keep on the radar. Edge rusher Landon Jackson has also been connected to the Raiders in a few circles. And safety prospect Kevin Winston Jr. from Penn State, one of the most underrated players in the draft, in my opinion. That wraps up round 2 and brings us to the start of round 3. The Raiders originally held the 68th pick, but in this mock, a trade goes down with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Here's how it played out. The Steelers move up to number 68, while the Raiders slide down to pick number 84. But they also pick up a 2026 third-rounder in the deal. Pittsburgh uses that pick to select quarterback Jalen Milroe, a player the Raiders reportedly had interest in as well. And it makes sense for the Steelers. If you've made it to the 3rd round without a QB and Milroe is still on the board, you pull the trigger. As for the Raiders, they walk away with some solid value. Adding another 3rd-round pick in next year's draft gives them extra flexibility, especially as they look to build a long-term contender. It's worth noting, Las Vegas has been stockpiling compensatory picks. They're already projected to receive extra 4th, 5th, and 6th rounders due to free agent departures. Players like Trevin Murrick, Nate Hobbs, and others leaving in free agency. Moves like that could absolutely motivate the front office to pull off a trade like this and grab another premium pick for 2026. Because while the Raiders want to compete now, the bigger vision is clearly aimed at 2026 and 2027. Coming up next, we'll break down who the Raiders selected at pick number 84 after that trade with Pittsburgh. Let's continue with how the rest of this ESPN mock draft played out for the Raiders. After the earlier trade that sent pick number 68 to the Steelers, who selected quarterback Jalen Milroe, we see Kyle Williams come off the board at number 69. From picks 72 to 76, there are a few interesting names, including Tennessee running back Dylan Sampson, a player we've discussed before. He's a promising prospect, but likely not a fit for Las Vegas if the team already selected Ashton Jeanty earlier. Wyatt Milam is another prospect worth noting, a player with strong upside on the offensive line. Tay Felton going at pick 78 was a bit of a surprise and may have triggered a bit of a run on wide receivers. At pick number 83, the Raiders make their next move, selecting Shemar Turner, a defensive tackle from Texas A&M. Turner is a bit of a hybrid player. Some evaluators see him as more of a tweener between an edge rusher and interior lineman. Think of him as a lighter defensive tackle who plays with the explosiveness and athleticism of an edge player. While his production in 2024 wasn't eye-catching, just 2 sacks, his 2023 season was far more impactful. He recorded 6 sacks and 31 pressures, showing his ability to disrupt the pocket. Despite no official combine meeting, pro day interaction, or top 30 visit between Turner and the Raiders, there's clear value in his traits. If this pick were to happen, it would indicate a continued emphasis on building the defensive line, a unit the team hopes can generate pressure with just 4 rushers. Turner is also from Dangerfield, Texas, not far from where he developed as a prep star, and his athletic upside makes him an intriguing Day 2 addition. However, if the Raiders do go with a player like Turner, it could be seen as a potential concern for former top pick Tyree Wilson, as it would likely signal more competition on the defensive front. So to recap how this ESPN mock draft played out for Las Vegas: Round 1, pick 6, RB Ashton Jeanty. Round 2, pick 37, OL Josh Simmons. Round 3, pick 83, DL Shemar Turner. Bonus, acquired a 2026 third-round pick via trade with the Steelers. Now, how would you grade this draft? A, excellent B, strong overall C, average but solid D, below expectations F, missed the mark entirely. Personally, I'd give it a B. Each of the 3 players selected has upside. Jeanty brings dynamic ability out of the backfield. Simmons, if healthy, can develop into a key piece on the offensive line. Turner offers disruptive potential up front, and adding a third-round pick in 2026 gives the team flexibility down the line. That said, this mock leans more toward long-term development than immediate impact. If this draft came to pass, it might leave fans wondering if enough was done to win right now. But it's also a clear sign of planning for the future. And finally, to wrap this up, based on how this mock unfolded, it reinforces the growing sense that Las Vegas is unlikely to take Shedeur Sanders at number 6, even if he's available.